Welcome to the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. Figured it out because you're smart and salty with the name of the show. I am nice and dry. Finally, the Wells Fargo Center water has, I think, finally left my ear canals. It is no longer on me. I rushed home and I took a good old shower after the dunk tank yesterday. We might get to that at some point today. But it was a wild weekend. Flyers Charities Carnival was front and center at the center on Sunday. Oh, but we have a lot of news coming out of the center, don't we, folks? Not only do we have the Charities Carnival, which we can talk about a little bit later on, but Matvei Michkov, boy, did the Four Nations face-off break do him well. Buzzing, he and Owen Tippett, Sean Couturier looking absolutely incredible on Saturday. The Sixers, oh boy. Now we know that little rumor that was going around, that Ramona Shelbourne nugget during the Sixers-Bucks game a few weeks ago, would seem to have just gotten additional validity from Shams Charania's reporting, so we're going to get to that. Is another surgery on the horizon for Joel Embiid? Are other additional half measures going to be put in place for this player who was once an MVP and right now looks like those best days are far behind him? And we obviously will keep our fingers crossed that is not the case. But it's starting to feel like there is a much higher chance that Joel Embiid will never be that same player again than him actually getting back to form. Now, again, I would love to be very wrong about that, but there's a historical precedent here for big men, knee problems and such. But we're going to get there later on in the show. And you might have noticed on the thumbnail, not just Skip Bayless wearing an Eagles jersey, which we're going to get to towards the end of the show, but we got a little bit of Union talk today. Did I see correctly on the thumbnail of this show? We're going to talk about the Philadelphia Union? Yes. Why? Because the Philadelphia Union played their season opener and they beat Orlando City in Orlando 4-2. Go with the Braves. Oh, yeah, we got a little bit of Union talk. My friends, you have to remember, and I know that many of you do remember this and that many of you will remember this as I try to orientate this thing a little bit with the microphone. There we go. You have to remember that at some point in the not too distant future, this show is going to have to adapt and modify. Why? Because eventually we are going to be without the Sixers. We are going to be without the Flyers. We are going to be left with the Phillies and the Union. And so we will make sure that we are paying our respects to both of those teams. I can tell you that after watching the Union, I would say in large parts dominate Orlando City and certainly have, they didn't have the gaff that Orlando City had. Oh my gosh, the camera's gone. We're gone. We're gone, everybody. Everybody have a great rest of your day. We're going to have to switch over here. I don't know why this has been happening lately, but it has been. I had no issues with that camera for weeks, if not months. And something has gone horribly awry in recent weeks that has led to that camera just crapping out during the stream. I don't know why. Anyway, we're going to get back to it. I'm going to issue a warning to Ford. Ford, if you continue to just every episode bump your comments back to the top, I'm banning you from the comments. So help me, omnipotent creator of mankind. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody wants to see your comment 40 times in the comments section. Knock it off. Act like an adult. Bumping it isn't going to make me pull it up. It reformats and it looks stupid. I have had my Ford warning on a Monday. Now, what do we want to get to today? We'll try that. I think that'll work. I should be back now. Ford somehow cut the mic, is what people are saying. I don't know if that's true. I certainly would hope not. Ford would never do such a thing to me. Maybe he would. Ford he's a guy. He's an interesting guy. Very interesting fella. Did Ford somehow hack my feed? Is that what happened here? That would be wildly disappointing. Ford, how dare you? What is wrong with you? What has happened to you, Ford? We're back to this. Okay. We'll do this. We'll do it this way. Now, here is the good news if you're a Philadelphia sports fan, because it's really simple. The next few months are going to be painful in a lot of ways. A lot of ways, it's going to be a very, very painful. Oh, I know why I crapped out. Hold on. I got it. I know why. Now we're good. We're back. So the reason that the next few months are going to be so painful, if you're a Philadelphia sports fan, is that the Sixers, on one hand, are going nowhere, and they're going nowhere fast. And why are they going nowhere fast? Because Joel Embiid's knee is done. It is over. It is dead. Joel Embiid's knee needs significant work. Presumably, it needs legitimate surgery. That's where we're going to end up at with Joel Embiid. Now, we've talked about this on this show for weeks, if not months, if not the better part of a year. The real issue with Joel Embiid's knee can be traced all the way back to the Olympics. If you remember, he looked great going into Olympic camp. Somewhere along the lines at the Olympics, he looked plodding. He never really looked particularly good when he was in games, so much so that you had the national media pundits who, typically are a little bit iffy, right? They're a little bit iffy on Joel Embiid relative to like Nikola Jokic and other MVP candidates. But people were really piling on Embiid at the Olympics and was like, he looks like he's plodding. He looks like the footwork's not there. It looks like the speed is gone. He just doesn't look like himself. He had the one game against Serbia, which really was his only true use in the Olympics, which was to neutralize Nikola Jokic. And in fairness, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. And yet, you run into a significant issue if you are a Joel Embiid supporter, which is in the Olympics, it would appear as though some point he hurt his knee. And there's no getting around it at this point because, go back to the beginning of the regular season, the Sixers said there was a plan, there was a ramp-up plan, but he wasn't hurt, which never made sense. It's very clear that they've done a whole hell of a lot of half measures. They didn't want him to have to go under the knife again. They just went and signed Paul George in the offseason. The idea was to let those two, along with Tyrese Maxey, take this team into the playoffs and, preferably to the promised land. However, it hasn't worked. Whatever half measures the Sixers tried to put in in fairness, that could also have something to do with what Joel Embiid wanted. I'm not saying that this is specifically and solely from the team. You would have to imagine that Joel Embiid's camp and the team together had to come up with some sort of a decision. The problem that you're going to run into here is that Embiid has never looked right this season. And it doesn't feel like at any point he's going to look like that MVP candidate, at least this year. There is a chance that down the line, we could have a significant, issue if they do put him under the knife again and it doesn't work. But here's what Shams reported over the weekend, because it was a legitimate issue. This was a legitimate problem. And again, it kind of confirms what Ramona Shelbourne had put out during the Sixers-Bucks game. It was this. The Sixers and Joel Embiid are consulting doctors and considering alternative options on his injured knee, sources tell ESPN. Sides have hoped for progress in Embiid's body, but his efforts to play and current treatments, including injections, have not provided any improvement. So now you end up in a really weird scenario if you're the Sixers, because remember, there was an extension handed out, and I would say that it was, I don't know. Like, if it's me, and I'm looking at Joel Embiid, and I'm looking at what Joel Embiid is supposed to be, the guy that you've gotten this season is not that Joel Embiid. Your only chance of winning a championship right now is to have MVP candidate Joel Embiid. Now, Tyrese Maxey can take you to the playoffs. I would be confident that if the Sixers were to somehow send out this Joel Embiid, who, again, you signed to a 3-year extension before you needed to, if you were to just somehow offload Joel Embiid
and then presumably probably also offload Paul George, then yeah, like we could go back to Joel, like you could go back to Tyrese Maxey and say, all right, if you build a team around Tyrese Maxey, is it a playoff team? Yes, I think Tyrese Maxey is good enough to take you to the playoffs. Is he good enough to take you to a championship on his own? No. And in fairness, there are very few players in this league who can get the job done on their own. I can't even think of a guy who on his own could win a title. Jokic doesn't do it on his own. He might be the closest thing to it. There's nobody in this league that is so head and shoulders above the rest that you can surround him with Garbaggio and he can still take you to the finals. Here's where I'll give LeBron credit. Early in his career, LeBron on a Cavs team that was certainly not rife with talent, he was able to take to a finals. I don't think that in the current landscape of the NBA, you have a guy who can do that. And if I'm wrong, by all means, let me know in the comments. I would love to know who is the player that is in this league right now that could single-handedly take a team to the promised land. I don't think the guy exists. I don't think that player is currently in the NBA. And in fairness, I don't think you have a generational talent coming up in the next draft that's going to be able to do that. Cooper Flagg looks like a really good player. And if the gods be good and want to help, restore some order to the process, it would be nice to have the Sixers get a little bit of lottery luck, maybe jump up to number one, get Cooper Flagg, and then you have a guy who could play with Tyrese Maxey. That'd be a very good fit. And maybe that's what you try to turn the page to down the road. But they don't have it right now. They don't, right now, if you're the Sixers, you have Tyrese Maxey, you have a bunch of role players that you signed in the offseason, you have Paul George, who has not worked out. I would not be shocked if this offseason Paul George is moved. Truthfully, I would not be surprised if we get to a point in the offseason. Paul George will still have interest out there from other teams on the trade market who will be willing to look past the injury issues. To me, I think that there's a better than zero chance that the Sixers move on from Paul George in the offseason. Because at this point, it's hard to imagine that Joel Embiid, even if he gets the knee taken care of now, right? Like, let's say he goes under knee surgery, whatever that surgery is. If it's a conventional surgery, none of those have worked to this point. So are you going to send him out somewhere to try an experimental surgery that's never been done on a big man before in the hopes that it's going to buck the trend of what happens to big men at this point in their career? I don't know. This is the part that pains me, because on a human level, Joel Embiid's made a lot of money. And so there are people who feel like, how dare you have any sympathy or any empathy for Joel Embiid? The guy has been through a lot in his career. We're talking about an navicular bone break. We're talking about that injury being the thing that ultimately dropped him to the Sixers in the draft. Otherwise, he would have been the number one overall pick out of Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker, but he falls to the Sixers. He misses his rookie season. His brother is killed in a tragic accident in Cameroon. So he loses that brother while he's stateside. You put that together with a bunch of other injuries, the Markelle Fultz shoulder to the face, the broken orbital bone. This guy has been through a lot, and you could say, hey, millions of dollars certainly take the pain out of the orbital bone fractures, or take the pain out of the meniscus tears, or take the pain out of whatever knee procedure he's going to have next, and the navicular bone and the back injuries. And to some extent you might be right, but he's a huge human being. And one thing that we know about big men is that as they age, they don't age gracefully. His rest of life, right? If his body is breaking down the way that it is to this point, at his age, his age 60 and age 70 are going to look horrific, barring modern medicine just taking an incredible turn for big men. So on a human level, I feel awful for him. And at the same time, as a fan of the Sixers and as somebody who wants to see the Sixers win, I still think that their best option here is to get him a surgery, whatever that surgery is, in the hopes that it's going to bring you back 80% of what Joel Embiid was before. That then doesn't make him the number one option on this team, but it certainly is a valuable player to have on this team. And at some point, there's going to have to be a conversation about the weight and the size. How much of the issues that Embiid has had with his joints have directly correlated with the increase in weight? Now, sure, there's a benefit. There's a strength benefit. There's an in the post banging bodies kind of element to him having that additional weight and strength. But is there a case to be made that taking Joel Embiid down on the weight scale, making him back into not the gazelle that he was as a rookie, where he's lanky and it takes him 4 strides to run down the court, not that skinny Joel Embiid, but a slightly lighter Joel Embiid, does that help him return to MVP form? Does it help him return to 80% of what he can be form? I don't know. But that update from Shams, on one hand, is wildly disappointing, incredibly disappointing. And on the other hand, it actually gives me a little bit of hope. It gives me a little bit of hope that this team has finally given up on this year, that they might shut him down for the rest of the year, that they might shut down Paul George for the rest of the year, and that they know their best case scenario is keep that top 6 protected first round pick. Which is where I get to, all right, on the Sixers side, if you're a Sixers fan, you're not going to watch a lot of winning. And the game against the Nets was like very exciting up until the end. And then you get beat on a buzzer beater, and in my tanking heart, which is, it's still in here from years ago. It is nice to think about the fact that they might get to keep their pick after all. And maybe when you have that pick along with Tyrese Maxey and some contracts coming off the books, like maybe there is a way to rework this thing again. I will say, however, that I don't think Daryl Morey should be the guy to do it. I think Daryl Morey has been given enough time. He's been given enough shots at this with Joel Embiid. And yes, you can't control for Embiid's health, but Bob Myers' name has been floated out there. I would rather go with a guy who built a dynasty in Golden State than a guy who's never won jack diddly squat in Daryl Morey. I think that has run its course. I would move on. If I were the Sixers this offseason and Bob Myers is available, I would move heaven and earth. I'd bring Bob Myers in, and I'd say, you take the shot. We'll decide on what we're doing with Joel. We'll decide what we're doing with Paul George. Decide how you want to surround Tyrese Maxey with talent, and that's where I would go. Now, I think ultimately, if you got to a place where Joel Embiid is your second option on the team, whether it's Maxey becomes the number one, you go out and you acquire through the draft, although I don't think there's a real number one. There's not like a generational prospect in this draft. If it's through the draft, if it's through free agency, to go out and get that number one option to pair with Maxey, could you see a scenario where a Joel Embiid a year or two from now is the third option, but a very, very good third option who can take over? Yeah, like you could win a title if Embiid is your second or third option. But remaining as the guy who the whole thing has to be built around, that will not win you a championship. I think that we have now seen that for enough years with enough supporting casts. I just don't think it's going to happen. So that's one of the teams, and they're in the tank now. It certainly appears. And then there's this other team in Philadelphia who is kind of in a tank, but not in a tank because they won on Saturday. I'm going to get to them in a second. That, of course, is the Philadelphia Flyers. But I do want to go out to the comments here really quick because we love the comments. We love the comments, don't we, folks? Let's go out. JH says, morning, Russ. Another day where the Flyers aren't the worst team in the city. Was Saturday the first sellout this year? Nice to see the boys dog walk a Stanley Cup favorite. We're going to get there in a little bit. The Flyers had a really good game against Edmonton. I thought was very unexpected. And that place was loud and it was raucous. Now, it wasn't quite, like Len DeJoseph was saying here, it wasn't quite the Quitter Gauthier game. And it wasn't quite like the one Flyers-Rangers game that had a playoff feel to it, but it was a loud arena. JH also says that I looked slightly concerned in the dunk tank photo. You just want to talk it through with the kid that's holding the ball. Did you watch it back, and did the kid with the redacted jersey, Carter Hart jersey, did he dunk you? I don't remember if the Carter Hart jersey dunked me, but I have to say that I have questioned the parenting of the Carter Hart jersey at this point. Just given the accusations, of course, innocent till proven guilty. But I don't think I'd be trying out the old Carter Hart jersey at the carnival. That's just me. Zach O is here. Says, oh yes, was just watching the Snow the Goalie Flyers Carnival. In a shocking turn of events, once again, NBC Sports Philadelphia did not air the Flyers Charities Carnival for I don't know what reason. But we were down there. We were live. We had a bunch of guests on the show. If you are interested in the Flyers and for some reason you don't subscribe to Snow the Goalie, go head over there at some point today and go check out that show because, friends, we had Brad Shaw, who is absolutely Keith Jones' doppelganger. Lou Nolan was on the show. Jim Jackson was on the show. We had somebody from Toyota who was on the show to talk about the fact that they were sponsoring and that they made a bunch of the floor activities. So your Ferris wheel, your merry-go-round, those were free of charge thanks to Toyota. We had Keith Jones and Dan Hilferty on. There was Wayne Simmons came on the show. Cindy Stutman was on the show. I feel like I missed one more. It'll come to me later. But it was a really great time. We had another wonderful show. We had a ton of people. We had thousands of people across all platforms checking out that show, which to me should indicate maybe there should be an increased presence from TV stations, like maybe, I don't know, the one that's based out of the fucking building. I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea what was on NBC Sports Philly or NBC Sports Philadelphia Plus on Sunday, but can somebody explain to me why the Flyers Charities Carnival wasn't on there? It's in the building. There's not even like the cost of having to move equipment or move people from the building. It's in the same building. For whatever reason, people really like to watch it from home. And to me, it's not even an argument of, well, if we put the carnival on the TV, people aren't going to show up. Kids get in for free. I forget how much the tickets were. Tickets were like $15 or $20, I think. But kids' tickets were free. And a lot of the activities, in fairness, are for kids, right? There's cotton candy everywhere. There's carnival games. But there's also you play a game with, who did I say? It was Chris Meyer from Meyer Media. He was doing an axe throwing thing with Eric Johnson. I saw that on Twitter, and I laughed because I'm like, that's funny. That's also good content. Good on him. But you had all kinds of crazy stuff going on, fun activities that you could do with players. There were pictures going around of Matvei Michkov with a baby. It's not his baby. At least we don't believe it's his baby. But there were pictures going around of Matvei Michkov at this carnival, his first carnival, holding a small child, holding a small human. I'm actually going to bring this up because this might have been, listen, if you need your heart warmed, if you need the cockles of your heart warmed on I would say a not entirely chilly Monday morning, here's Matvei Michkov. So the dude is at his first Flyers Charities Carnival, and he's holding this little baby. That should warm your heart. That little baby. That little baby someday is going to be like, I was held by the best Flyer in history. Maybe. You don't know. I don't know. None of us know. But this is sweet. I like this. Little baby reaches out. Are you Matvei Michkov? So anyway, those pictures were going around. Look at this. Hand Matvei Michkov the baby. Look at this. This is a beautiful moment. You want to market your team? Matvei Michkov holding the baby. Look at that baby. Cute little baby. Good job. Good job to that family for handing that baby off to Matvei Michkov. But listen, if you want to talk about fun, if you want to talk about things that ultimately matter, especially for a team that is not going to make the playoffs, I know that there are still some people who cover the Flyers or who work for the Flyers who are saying, hell, you just never know. You never know. Things could always happen. They're not making the playoffs. But they had, I think, and I think we're waiting for the official number, they had more people there yesterday than they did the year before. I can pretty much tell you that, at least from the eye test, that the floor at the Flyers Charities Carnival was packed with people, packed with humanity. The entire concourse, packed with humanity. Here's some highlights, right? So the Flyers put these pictures out. So this goes to them. Cam York. You've got, I can't tell who that is, but they've got ladder golf up on, I think that's on the mezzanine level. So you have people getting to play, and then up, of course, the Snow the Goalie crew, right? Got Keith Jones. You got a Dan Hilferty, Anthony Sanfilippo, Bundy, me, intern Andrew. We had the best setup. We actually slightly modified our setup from a year ago. We were in the same location, but the backdrop, not only did we get the escalator and the people going up, but we had this sea of humanity. So people were just pointing out some of their favorite jerseys that they saw going behind. There was a guy wearing a Nick Delorier jersey that was misspelled, which made me laugh hysterically. So that guy either screwed up the spelling and tried to do a custom Nick Delorier jersey, or at some point, maybe he ordered it from a knockoff site and they misspelled it. But I felt crazy because there was a point where I looked out and I was like, wait a second. Are you telling me that all these years, my spelling of Nick Delorier has been wrong? So I Google it, right? This maybe has happened to you before where you're confident in something, but then you see it wrong and you think to yourself, nobody would have paid money to have that wrong thing. So I Google it and no, I was right. I was right with my spelling of Delorier. So somebody out there who was at the Flyers Charity Carnival, if you're watching the show, double check the spelling of Delorier. You might be the person who has it misspelled. Maybe de-stitch it and just kind of rearrange the letters. Just a thought. But anyway, this was a great, and I mean great day for the Flyers. And in fairness, it is so massive, absolutely massive for a team that is not going to make the playoffs to still see that they have the support of the fans and to see that there are people who still want to come into the arena, take their kids, meet the players, spend money that will go to charity to play ladder golf or to play, I don't know if the oversized beer pong was there like last year, but that used to be over by like the Cure Auto Club. There are so many fun things to do at that carnival. But for whatever reason, and I'm not entirely sure why it seemed like people were excited about the opportunity, but there were people who for some reason at 11 o'clock, actually before 11 o'clock, were lined up at the dunk tank. And I don't know why, but there were people who were lined up at the dunk tank, and we got to do this thing again. We're going to switch over here. We're going to take this one down. Okay. So we have to go to the dunk tank because, unfortunately, your good friend, Russ Joy, your great friend, Russ Joy, was in the dunk tank at 10:58 a.m. I showed up 2 minutes early. I got in the dunk tank. And for some reason, people were very excited to drop me in the drink. And I don't know why. I seem like a wonderful person, a good-spirited human being. But as you can see, there was terror on my face. There's no getting around it. I was scared. And at this point, by the time this picture came up, and I think this one was taken by a friend of the show, Joe Papel, I was scared at this point. There's no getting around it. I'm not afraid to admit it. I was scared because there were some kids with very strong arms trying to drop me into the dunk tank. All right, here we go. I hit the wrong. There we go. Here you go.
How do you feel?
Very uncomfortable. I'm 2 minutes. Wait.
I'm 2 minutes early.
2 minutes early. We're
2 minutes early. And they lined the kid up to start throwing the ball at the target. Now, this kid didn't have a strong enough arm. They hit the target. They hit the target twice. I didn't go in. And then I was dumped into the drink by one of the workers, which I thought was a violation. Now, mind you, this is the potato can. This is intern Andrew's camera. So if you're looking at it, you're saying that video quality is horrific. That is intern Andrew's video, my friends. It's not.
Russ, how do you feel?
Another fan caught this angle from behind. Now, you can see at this point, I am very, very, very soaked at this point. Now, the water also looks gross from that angle. That is the orange glow of the tank. Now, I do have to tell you, there was one thing that upset me after I got done doing the dunk tank at the Flyers Charities Carnival. So I get in there at 10:58. I'm supposed to start at 11. I get at 10:58. I think they're going to wait until 11. They don't. So they start throwing. Now, I feel the water real quick with my Tootsie Toes. I just drop the Tootsie Toes in there really quick, okay? Just dropping the Tootsies in, thinking the water's going to be not totally ice cold. Because when I got in, the guy said, the water is, we made the water as warm as we could. And I said, okay, well, that's thoughtful. So I sit on the ledge, and at 10:58, they start throwing the balls at the target. Now, I'm 2 minutes early, so I'm like, all right, I only have to be here until 11:28, right? But then I think to myself, this is for charity. I'm going to do the right thing. So all these small humans, right, they come up there with these massive python arms, right? We're talking about 7-year-old kids that have Hulk Hogan's arm. And they're just whipping the ball at the target. Bing, 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 bing. And sometimes it drops me and sometimes the ball bounces off. And I said prior to going into it that I know it's for charity, but I'm not doing the charitable thing. If a kid hits the target and it's not strong enough to drop me, we're not just letting everybody drop me. That's not how this works. Not with me in the tank. And then some of the workers betrayed me and they hit the target. And they made me drop. And I was whacked in the back 6 or 7 times by that board. I woke up this morning. My back is tense. I said yesterday on the stream, there's a personal injury attorney out there. But I was in that dunk tank for 32 minutes, and the water was freezing cold, which is fine. No one cares. But here's what got me. So I get out of the tank. I'm very cold, but it's okay. I go to get changed in a locker room, right? When I come out, the lady who was after me is sitting there shivering, and she's not on the edge of the platform. She's sitting shivering, and there's a hose, a big black hose going into the dunk tank. So I think something went wrong, and I said, hey, What's the dealio? Like, was there a leak in the tank? Did something break? What happened? And she said they're adding warm water. And I look at the guy who told me that he made the water as warm as he could. I looked at him and I said, I'm sorry, what? And he goes, I told you I could make the water warm. I said, no, you said that you made the water as warm as you could. He said, no, I said I could add warm water. So we went back and forth on this. And then I was like, all right, it's fine. At that point, I'm already warming back up. My body's warming. But I will point out, now I don't know who that was. I don't know who the person after me was. I didn't recognize her, but good for her for being in the dunk tank. I gave 32 minutes of my time to be in the dunk tank. And when I came out, she had been sitting there for definitely longer than 10 seconds, not getting dunked. And because I stayed until the 11:30, I don't think she had to do a full half hour. Now, I'm not saying that there should be additional compensation to Russ Joy, because in fact, there was no compensation for being in the dunk tank. But I do, maybe Anthony got a cake years ago from Val Camilla because he broke his toe. I took some spinal damage from the board in the dunk tank. Now, do I expect a spine cake at the next Flyers home game? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Greg Bondarenko's right, though. Says lesson learned for next year is to ask for warm water. Anyway, this was very, very cold. Zacho says instead of Lundy Law, maybe there's Bundy Law. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. The carnival was great. We got some really good moments out of the carnival. We also got what I will declare right now as being one of my new favorite sound drops, which will be live on the Snow the Goalie account at some point. The next time we go to do a Snow the Goalie, which will be Tuesday night for the Press Row show, we got a video that made me warm and fuzzy. We got a video clip, and it was from when I wasn't even sitting at the table. Ant and Bundy were going back and forth about autographs because there was somebody who was like patiently waiting, I guess, for an autograph at the carnival. And then Ant asks Bundy, what's the weirdest place you've ever had to sign an autograph? And Bundy kind of hesitates, and he thinks to himself, and he says, you really want to know? And Ant says, yes, I really want to know. And I want everybody to just think for a second, what is it that Bundy had to sign on somebody before? What is the weirdest thing Bundy had to sign? Oh, if you guessed it, congratulations if you did, but we're going to just drop to this really quick. This is what Bundy said. Here we go. That's my new favorite sound drop for Snow the Goalie. So there we go. Bundy has signed a breast. You can learn more about that. Oh, they said no sound! No! No! Okay, hold on. I'll do it this way. The show today. Absolute mess. We'll go over here really quick. I'm going to add it here. I got it. Don't worry. We're okay. No, we won't. Never mind. You'll have to listen to Snow the Goalie. I have to convert the video to a different format for it to play in StreamYard. That's my fault. I let the whole team down. I'm really sorry, everybody. Try not to hate me. Just try. Try in your heart of hearts not to be angry with me. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't screw this up on purpose, I promise. Can I circumvent the requirements here in the interest of doing things for the people? Yes, I can. Here we go. It's processing. So Bundy had to sign a body part. I've already given away what it is. Here we go.
I've signed a boob.
So that's going to be on Snow the Goalie from now on. That's going to join Bundy's impression of Hitch's mating call. That's going to join John Tortorella saying that silly podcast.
I've signed a boob.
That's our new sound drop, my friends. By the way, I think this is the second or third person to note it, but Peter Weiss notes, shirt is cake. Yeah. From the cake concert that they did at the Mann Center. Was it last summer or 2 summers ago? Every time cake comes close enough to the general Pennsylvania area, my wife and I try to get out to a concert. We went to Steel Stacks out in Bethlehem a few years ago. Was that 2018? We went to that show, went to the Mann Center in Philly. It was great. It was absolutely fantastic. So, big Cake fans. Cake is my favorite band. Bar none. Bar none. My favorite. All right, so anyway, Carnival, great. Here's the good news if you're a Flyers fan. They will occasionally win a game, which hockey teams are going to do. They will go toe-to-toe with a team like Edmonton that could very well end up being a Stanley Cup favorite. But ultimately, they are going to lose games, and they are going to put themselves in position to have a really good draft. Keep in mind, they have Edmonton's pick, they have Colorado's pick, and then they have their own pick. If things go the way that I expect them to, I would very much expect a Scott Laughton trade by the deadline. And I'd probably expect one other player to get moved. I don't think they're going to move Risto. At this point, I think I'd be really, really shocked if they moved Rasmus Ristolainen. I think that in their minds, they're going to try to flip the switch next year. Whether that means that this offseason they're going to offer sheet a few restricted free agents, whether it means they're going to get really active in the trade market, I think that the rebuild in their minds ends this year. I think it ends with this upcoming draft. I think this offseason is the one where they take it all and they say, all right, now we're gonna flip the switch a little bit. We're gonna start trying to win. They're going to tell themselves that Matvei Michkov and whatever player they get here, plus Jetlachenko next year, plus some of the other guys that they believe in coming up and through their system, that they are going to have enough young talent that they can start to look to add. I don't envision a scenario where the 2025-2026 Philadelphia Flyers are tanking or are a bottom of the league team that, like, people even like me that have been saying tank, tank, tank. I don't think they're going to even be close to being in contention for that next year. I really do think that they're going to add talent this offseason through the draft, through free agency, through trades. So with all that in mind, Rasmus Ristolainen actually does have value. And while getting a first-round pick for him would be great, if they are going to flip the switch, you're going to have another top 4 defenseman take his place. And based on his cap hit, based on where he's been, there's now part of me, I can't believe I'm saying it, that thinks, if they keep him, it might not be the worst thing in the world. Now, if they internally believe that they're going to go one more year of the rebuild where they're going to be bad again, well, then, yeah, you trade Risto. And if it's not now, it's going to be around the draft, and you're going to try to get a 2026 pick. But I'd be really, really shocked if they moved Risto. I think that Laughton is a very good chance. I think there's a very good candidate, or a very good chance that you see Laughton as the lead trade candidate from this team. Could they look to move a Paling or a Hathaway or someone else who could maybe go help a team on a playoff hunt this year? Maybe. There's a possibility of that. But I don't think you're going to see any more big name deals between now and the trade deadline. I could be wrong, but I don't think I will be. I think that it's going to be Laughton, and that might be it. And in fairness, you add that to the Farabee and Frost trade, and I say, you've done enough to clear out some cap. You've done enough to bring in some capital. You'll get some kind of trade capital, some kind of draft capital in a Laughton deal. I don't know. I find myself feeling a little bit more positive because I feel like I actually understand where the Flyers are going now. And I think they've now indicated through their actions that they are much more in line with what I've been, banging on the table about. Lower the ceiling, lower the floor. I think that it's going to be a painful last month or so, but I do think that this team is going to remain competitive. Even if they move a Scott Laughton, they're still going to remain competitive in games. They will pick up a few wins, but they're going to put themselves in a really good position to go up and get, hopefully, some elite talent at the top of the draft. Right now, this is viewed as a 4-player draft. Some say it's the top 3, then there's a little bit of a drop to number 4, and then there's a big drop where, like, number 5 through 20 is essentially the same player. You have to hope that your scouts are right. You have to hope that your scouts are going to lead you in the right direction, especially because of how important this draft is. 3 first-round picks, 4 second-round picks. Will they take some of that draft capital and then try to parlay that into 2026? Will they try to take some of that draft capital and try to move up in this draft? Remains to be seen. Right now, as of recording Monday morning, the Flyers, if the season ended right now and if the lottery played out in order, they would have the 7th overall pick in this draft. 7 is where they happened to land Matvei Michkov, who fell for a bunch of different reasons, but 7th pick in the draft, I'd be pretty happy. If you are able to find your way a little bit more to the bottom, that would be great. That actually would be fantastic. As it stands right now, and I'll pull this up really quick. If you take a look at where the Flyers are relative to the other teams that are trying to race to the bottom, San Jose right now is in a league of their own in terms of ineptitude. Chicago's pretty close there at 41 points. Nashville at 47 with 56 games played, which you can look at it a few different ways, right? If teams have games in hand on the Flyers, so like Nashville's played 56, the Flyers have played 58. The Flyers have maxed out the number of points they could have over those 58 games, right? In theory, Nashville could win those 2 games, or they could win 2 games down the stretch here, which puts them at 51. Still not as close to, it's not the same thing as 57, but like with games in hand, they could end up picking up wins. The Flyers could pick up some losses, and maybe that top 3 has just a little bit of give to it. I think San Jose and Chicago are essentially locked into those bottom 2. Nashville could end up being locked into the bottom 3. It's possible. You look at Seattle, you look at Buffalo, you look at Pittsburgh, you look at the Flyers, the Blues, the Canadiens, Utah, Anaheim, the Islanders. They're all in a nasty little mix of points and games played. Like, this could go sideways, which is why the lower the ceiling, lower the floor plan is the way to go. You could pick up a couple of wins here and there. Pick up out-of-conference wins. Have competitive games against teams like the Oilers. That's fine. But when you have a game against one of those other teams that you're kind of battling for or jockeying for better draft positioning with, you play a Buffalo or a Pittsburgh, that needs to be a regulation loss. That's a 4-point swing. If you win in regulation and you pick up 2 points and the opposition doesn't pick up any, that's one thing. But if you invert that, that ends up being a 4-point swing. Now, you can't tell players to go out and lose. You can't tell John Tortorella to go out and lose. Moving a Lawton could end up having some ramifications on how this team plays. If you were to move Risto, it would have a massive impact. Like if the goal here really were, we want to tank to try to go get a generational talent, which I don't think is in this draft, then you move Risto because it gives you the best chance of getting yourself in position where you get a slightly better chance of getting that first overall pick. But if you look at the percentages, like right now, the Flyers at 7 would have a 6.5% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick, right? If you fall to, let's say, 5, it's an 8.5% chance. So it's not a huge jump. It's really where you get to like the third worst record is 11.5. The second worst record is 13.5. If you have the worst record in the league, you end up with a 25.5% chance, which is far from a guarantee. But anyway, if you look at where the Sixers are and you look at where the Flyers are right now, both teams are going to lose a lot of games over these last couple of months. And in fact, for the Sixers, assuming they shut down Embiid, they shut down Paul George, they should be able to keep that top 6 protected pick. Maybe they get lottery luck. Maybe they end up getting a piece that helps them for their long-term future. But oh, by the way, if they get a healthy Joel Embiid back next year, if they either move Paul George or they get a healthy Paul George back next year, they actually are in very good position to maybe actually do something next year. The Flyers are in a little bit of a different place where if you get a top pick, I don't know if that guy's going to play for your team next year. He might be 2 years out. But then you start to think about, all right, restricted free agency. You think about unrestricted free agency. You think about trades. You think about next year. You think about next trade deadline. There's a potential here that the 2026-27 team, it's 2 seasons away, but that team for the Flyers could be a really good one. There are reasons to believe that things could be turning around. There, of course, are possibilities that these things could go sideways for both teams. I happen to want to live in the positive. I want to live in the positive mindset right now. But I do think that you're going to see a lot of losing. The main thing to keep in mind is that if you're a Sixers fan, you want to keep that first-round pick. This isn't just like a matter of jockeying for position. This is you could theoretically lose that pick. You don't want to lose it. Lose games, keep your pick. If you're the Flyers, do what you're going to do. Try to get yourself a little bit closer to that safety zone, that, let's say, the bottom 5, and not end up at the, let's say, number 13 spot where you have no chance. I mean, if you're at 13, there's practically no chance of you jumping up in the lottery to take that first overall pick. You have to be really, really careful. Now, Chris Fried over here says, Flyers have no goalie. I think Sam Erson's a good goalie. I don't know if Sam Erson's going to be your long-term number 1. I do think that he is an NHL goalie. He has shown flashes of looking like he could be a number 1. I understand skepticism around him. I think that ultimately they're going to look at guys like Bjarnason, they're going to look at guys like Zavragan, and they're going to tell themselves there are other guys in the pipeline that we could take a look at. I don't think they view Alexei Kolosov as being a long-term solution here. They obviously don't view Ivan Fedotov as being a long-term option here. I think he's going to end up being some trade fodder, to be honest. I think that Fedotov could end up getting you something he might be dealt at some point. Kolosov maybe is your backup for a few years, but I think that they're looking down the line at some of the goalies that they have in the organization. Landros 2 says, Flyers are not that bad. They've built the team that way and refuse to get worse. It'll be 8-12 in the draft unless they get lottery luck. I think that there is a chance that they finish in the bottom 5. I do. I think there's a possibility. It's not a guarantee. If they end up picking at number 12, it's going to be really painful. And it's going to be another one of those times where you go, shit. Because while some scouts now feel like number 5 to number 20 is essentially the same quality of player, I'd much rather have you in position to be able to pick from any of those players rather than pick at 12 where you've missed out on, 6 other guys who were in that same grouping. I'd rather your scouts be able to give you their best recommendation on the top of that next tier of players rather than make it kind of in the middle and have them go, oh, shit, well, 3 of our guys that we thought were going to be, locks are now gone, and we have to go this, and then you have to look at organizational needs. No. I want you to go as high up as you can, put yourself in position to get that best possible player that you can. I don't expect the Flyers to win the lottery. Don't expect them to end up at number 2. We will see where they're at. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that things go well. Landros asks, is Kolosov back? I think he'll be back next year, but I don't know what that's going to look like. If you're a Flyers fan and you're like, you have stock in Alexei Kolosov, I don't know what that's going to look like a year from now. I think that he will be here. I would assume that he'll be the backup. Unless they have one of those other guys in the pipeline come in and just outperform him, and then you probably look to trade him. I have no idea. No clue. Zacho says, I'm over Coley. I think he's back, though. Yo, I got to tell you, the craziest thing is that every once in a while I look on Twitter and I see, Kevin Kurz from The Athletic he so firmly believes that Alexei Kolosov belongs nowhere near the NHL. It is absolutely wild. I mean, it is the craziest thing. Anytime Kolosov does anything, leaves the ice early, doesn't stay on for extra work, Kevin's on him. The next time we do a press row show and have him on, I'm going to have to ask him about it because it just feels like a lot. Feels like a lot. Okay. I wanted to go over to the comments and see if there was anything that I wanted to get to because there was another thing that happened here. Jamie brought this up. This is good. Kyle Neubeck wrote a great article this morning about the whole situation. Embiid was evaluated by doctors 3 times in the last several months. All 3 times, doctors said he didn't need surgery. What do you do when doctors keep saying the same thing over and over? And Jamie also says, I'll add the last time he was evaluated was right before that extension was signed. I don't know what to do. And I think that if you're a Sixers fan, you better hope that there is something out there, that there is a miracle cure for Joel Embiid's knee. Now, Jim Cochran over here had a very good question in the chat. Why are we talking about Embiid when we have a team in this town that's obviously headed for a Supporter Shield and MLS Cup championship? Barrevo is Golden Boot bound. Philly fan overreaction? Yes, very big Philly fan overreaction. However, I did note at the top of the show that the Philadelphia Union won their season opener 4-2 on the road against Orlando. And I think that there's a non-zero chance here that the Union end up being better than expected. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to be perennial contenders for MLS Cup, but I do think that there is a better than zero chance that they look like a competent squad. Now, how this whole thing comes together and how their new transfers come together, is there going to be a learning curve? Is it going to take a long time for these guys to gel, to kind of find their role within the team? Now, in fairness, the Union have brought back a lot of the guys that were on the last team and the team from the year before, so there is some chemistry that already exists. But theoretically, could you win some games while going through some of those growing pains with the new signings? It's possible. Are they going to be the best team in the East? I don't know. There would have to be a lot to change for me to think that they're going to win the East. They should be a playoff team. Based on what I saw the other night, I think that if the Union play that way all season, they should be a playoff team. And once you hit the MLS playoffs, anything can happen. Now, Jim Cochran notes, defense was ultra disorganized. Hope that settles down a bit. It was disorganized, but it wasn't as bad as the gaffe I think I talked about it before. The gaff on the third goal, where it was just a woeful play by the center back, goes right to the Union, who deposited it into the back of the net. And the call from Apple TV Plus was hilarious. It was like, oh no, like disaster for Orlando. I actually do have the intention, if not this week, then next week, of having somebody on who covers the Union. I would like to get some thoughts from somebody who's covering the Union day in and day out on what they see and what they think this Union team can ultimately be. Let's see. Sean C. says, I couldn't believe what I was watching on Saturday. That giveaway that led to the Ura goal was one of the worst I've ever seen. Yes, it was a horrible turnover. And I'll tell you this, if you're looking for a team to maybe give you a little bit of excitement, a little bit of hope this summer, the Union might end up being that team because we know how I feel about the Phillies. There are worse ways to spend your money and your time than going down to Chester, going to Subaru Park, and getting to enjoy a Union game. There are no bad seats in the place. The tailgating culture, where you can find a spot, is still very strong. I might make it down to a few Union games this summer. I might. This might be the year. It might be. I don't think I'm going to go down and like cover games this year. But like, will I take the kids? Good chance. Sam S. over on YouTube says, Union might have a better than expected regular season. Playoffs, the type of guys they can't afford to sign, have an outsized impact. Would love to be wrong. And that's where I think I did mention this last week. When the Union signed Bruno, it was a $3 million transfer fee, which broke the team's record for transfer fee, and yet didn't crack the top 100 transfer fees in MLS history. And so if you think about like, oh, the Union finally opened up the checkbook, or the pocketbook, whatever the hell you're supposed to open up. They finally spent actual money on a signing, on a transfer, and then you look relative to the rest of the league, it doesn't crack the top 100. That kind of gives you an idea of just what a poverty franchise the Union have been to this point. But I always give credit to Ernst Tanner. Ernst Tanner could find a diamond in a stack of bullshice, and somehow he just plucks it out of there. Oh, some dude playing in like the 4th division in the Netherlands. Oh yeah, we'll turn him into an all-star. That hasn't exactly happened. But Kai Wagner was playing in what, 2nd or 3rd tier league in Europe. They brought him over here. He became the best left back in MLS for multiple years. They just have this ability. Ernst Tanner's a wizard. He's a wizard at finding and evaluating talent and bringing them to town on contracts that are very low and ultimately have gotten this team a lot of success. I don't know what Jim Curtin's up to now. I wonder how Jim Curtin felt about Saturday's game. We'll keep an eye on Jim. Jim's a good guy. Sean C. says, seems like Ernst & Co. really set up Curtin to fail last season. I can't recall them being this busy with moves when they contended from 2019 to 2022. I don't necessarily know that it was like an active effort on the part of the front office to like tank Curtin's chances of winning. I do think that there was a legitimate issue where like the organization didn't want to have the stuff kind of aired out that Jim Curtin was airing out. But for the number of years that he was here, and for the fact that like they had gotten MLS Cup and they kept running it back, I get why he went public with his like displeasure for not spending. It is interesting that they break the club record in the offseason following his departure. I don't necessarily think that's sending a message. Maybe it is just a way to try to appease the fan base. I'm really not totally sure. Josh Gaynor asks, did you watch the Onside Show Apple release? The Cavan episode was interesting. I didn't know. I have to, I guess. I've not watched it. I didn't even know it was a thing. I'll watch it. Apple TV Plus remains the place where you have really good programming, starring legitimate actors and actresses that you've seen that are very qualified, and no one has any idea what any of it is. I will give a show recommendation. I don't remember if I gave this recommendation or not. There's a show on Apple TV Plus called Slow Horses with Gary Oldman, right? Played Sirius Black, played Detective Gordon. He's played a whole lot of other roles. That show is unbelievable. That show is one you need to go out of your way and watch. I think there are 4 seasons on Apple TV Plus already. I think the 5th season comes out later this year. It is an incredibly well-written show. I went from that to some like bullshit American like FBI show or something. I got one episode into this other FBI show, and I was like, the writing on the show fucking blows compared to what we just came from with Slow Horses. So just a suggestion, if you will. Slow Horses on Apple TV+. It's incredible. Okay, so we talked about the Sixers, the Flyers, the Union, the Dunk Tank, the Charities Carnival, which leads me to the final thing before we head out. And I know this is going to resonate with all of you because we've heard from this man a few times on this show over the last few months. It's a guy who does believe in Jalen Hurts. It's a guy who we never thought would, for whatever reason, align with us, and yet some reason, somehow, some way he is. Skip Bayless. Well, I'm going to let him do the talking. I've cut about 2 minutes out of what he posted to Twitter, but you just need to listen to him kind of tear down the Cowboys again and explain, is Skip Bayless switching allegiances from the Cowboys? Is that what's happening? Let's check it out.
To hear my owner, Jerry Jones, Scary Jerry, say, I'm all in. And he was all time, all out because he did next to nothing. And then I had to sit painfully, silently, and watch Howie Roseman, the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles, win the entire offseason. He
Correct.
won free agency.
Yes.
He won the draft.
He did.
He had the greatest offseason any GM has ever had.
Could be true.
And I finally gave up. And in August, I said publicly, the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl.
He did say that.
And guess what?
What?
I proved to be painfully, traitorously, ridiculously prophetic. I'm a genius about the Philadelphia Eagles because they did go win the Super Bowl.
Question. Skip Bayless is like 70, right? Does he look like he's a 70-year-old to you? Is it just because he's wearing the jersey and the nice kicks and the jeans and the hat? Does Skip look 70 plus? Let me know in the comments.
Which has led me to this. It has come to this for me. Hang on.
Uh-oh. Skip, what are you doing?
I have now purchased
By
with
God.
my own money
By God.
this jersey.
That's Jalen Hurts music.
I have always loved Jalen Hurts.
Oh,
And a team I have always hated, the freaking Philadelphia Eagles. I hate this color. It makes me sick at my stomach. And it has come to this, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, no. No, Skip, you don't have to take that off. Up. Yep, there it goes. There it goes. Is it going in the dumpster? Oh, he throws it across the room. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Behold,
Derek Lentz, in the
Cowboy
meantime,
Nation.
says Skip is a fitness freak, looks closer to 60. All right. Look at this. What world are we living in? Oh, my. Oh, no. Oh, no.
What do you think? Fly, Eagles, fly.
What was that flash?
It's your fault, Jerry Jones.
Hold on. Whoa,
You made me do.
Hold on. We got it. Hold on. We're gonna bring it back to the fly, Eagles, fly.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Let's change that. Let's change that pacing.
Eagles, fly.
That's. I'll tell you what. If a bird had that lack of coordination,
It's your fault,
That bird would die.
Jerry Jones.
Fall from the
you
sky.
made me do this.
okay.
I even got the shoes to match.
Uh-oh.
You like it?
So is Skip Bayless now an Eagles fan? I know that everything is performative with Skip Bayless, but like, is he now an Eagles fan? Because like, I'm concerned. I'm legitimately concerned. Sean C says his skits or whatever, when he throws his Dak jersey in the garbage is a skit a 20-year-old would do. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is Skip Bayless going to be an Eagles fan? I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I feel good about that. I really don't. All right, anyway, we've had a wonderful time today with a little bit of tech issues, but, you know, it's the show. I hope you enjoyed the Russ Joy Show. Do me a favor if you haven't done so already. Like the video, share the video, subscribe. If you share it, it actually helps. You can share it on Twitter, on Facebook, Threads. If you have Blue Sky, I don't know how Blue Sky works, but if you want to share it on Blue Sky, Reddit, in a text thread, a Facebook group chat, wherever, on WhatsApp, you share the video, it helps. So even if you have a friend who you know already watches the show, you share it to one another. I don't know, like YouTube looks at that happily or smiles at it or something. So like the video, share the video, subscribe. When the live show is over, if you watched while it was live, head over to the YouTube channel, to the regular comments. Let me know something you agreed with, disagreed with. Let me know what you're thinking. Do we agree about where the Flyers are heading, the Sixers are heading? Should I have stayed underneath the water in the dunk tank and held my breath for 2 minutes? Should little kids be allowed to just run up and hit the button, as it happened a few times in the dunk tank? Did you go to the Charities Carnival? What was your favorite part there? All that kind of stuff. Let me know in the comments section below. If you are a podcast listener, the show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. I will be back on Tuesday night with the Press Row Show over on the Snow the Goalie channel. I'll be back here Wednesday morning with the Russ Joy Show. At some point this week, I will get out an episode of It's Just Wrestling. I don't know what's happened. 2 weeks ago, I was just very sick. Last week, I meant to do it to talk about The Rock, because The Rock had a weird promo on SmackDown. I still might do it. Like maybe a very quick It's Just Wrestling will sneak out early in the week, and then I'll do the normal one on Thursday. And I'm back Friday again with the Russ Joy Show. So until then, Zach O thanks me, but I thank Zach O. Greg Bondarenko asks, is there a weekly Tuesday Snow the Goalie tomorrow? I don't think so. I think we're foregoing the regular Tuesday episode. We're going to do the Press Row Show. We had the Carnival episode kind of take the Tuesday's place. And there's going to be a bonus episode later this week with Four Nations talk, because we also got into that with Wayne Simmons. We did some stuff post-game a couple nights ago to kind of recap Four Nations. So there'll probably be bonus episodes. So you'll still have stuff in the feed. And then March is going to be brutal. We have 7 home games in 11 days or something with the Flyers. There's going to be a lot of Snow the Goalie, a lot of Press Row Show. So get yourself ready. Landros2 says, thanks, Russ. Have a great day. Nice, we're finally getting that thaw. I agree. You know what else we're getting? Out of here. Until Wednesday, I've been Russ Joy. This has been the Russ Joy Show, but you knew that already because you're smart, and it's also the name of the show. Talk to all of you Wednesday here on the Russ Joy Show. Have a great day, everybody.